So these words may sound familiar: passion ninja, thrive in business and life, 10x your income. These are things that we often see or hear on Instagram, on websites. And, this brings up a discussion about, is coaching a scam? So this is the No Excuses podcast with Ryan Montes and Alana Banks. And today we're talking about, is coaching a scam? Recently, I saw a marketplace on CBC that was really, uncovering coaching and the coaching industry, the life coaching industry. And there was quite a negative spin on this. And so Ryan and I thought that it would be a great topic to discuss, because there does seem to be some polarization in the coaching industry. A lot of people think that it's great. A lot of people think that it's not so great, that it's a big scam. And so let's discuss this topic today.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Is coaching a scam? By the way, everybody, in case you don't know, I used to be a fraud investigator. That was my first career. I was a private investigator. I was licensed in Ontario and Quebec, and I conducted primarily fraud investigations. That was my first real job, real career. I was good at it. I did it a lot. And so, I don't claim to be an expert on anything. I don't claim to be an expert on scams or anything like that. But, to use a technical term, it ain't my first rodeo. I've been around, right? I do know what fraud is, for example, right? Which would be the technical term for scamming someone, or at least the legal term, right? By the way, I'm not a lawyer, and nothing that you hear on our podcast today should be construed as legal advice. This is merely our opinions and experiences being shared. But is coaching a scam, right? I think a lot of people think that it is, right? Which is interesting. I think a lot of people hear that term, life coach, and they say, oh yeah, that's they just take money for advice, or I don't know how people justify the accusations that get thrown around. But it's not like it's one or two people. It's a lot of people that have that view potentially. So is it a scam? I don't know, Alana. What do you think? Is it a scam?
Well, in my opinion, I definitely do not think coaching is a scam. However, I think that there are coaches out there that have no training, and, they've given the profession a really bad name. And, like they say, one bad apple ruins the lot or whatever. So, do I think coaching is a scam? No, I don't think it's a scam, but I think that there are a lot of really bad coaches out there. And I think that it's up to the client or the person who's looking for a coach to take the responsibility to do the due diligence and do the research and, look at testimonials and look up references to know that they're, getting what they say, or they're getting a coach who is going to measure up to what they're saying they are going to give them in the end.
Yeah. Just like anything. Yeah. It's such a broad thing to say, coaching is a scam. That's like saying auto mechanics are a scam, right? Are there some that are dishonest? Sure. But is it a necessity? Is it something? Do the majority of them provide a valuable service? Yeah, of course, right? Even if you don't agree with their profit margins, or whatever criticisms people have of the auto mechanic industry, there's plenty. It's a necessary service, and and at the end of the day, it means having this service industry means transportation, efficient transportation for human people, right? So, probably we need to define a couple of terms, and one of those terms would be, what is a scam in the context of coaching? And so, to put it as simple as possible, or as simply as possible, I think some people have the idea that you would give somebody a coach after being provided false hope or something like that. You give a coach lots of money, and then they won't do anything, right? They'll pump you up with motivational quotes or something, and send you on your way. And I think that's kind of the perception that people have. I think people tend to kind of lump life coaches or other coaches into the category of like motivational speakers or hype men. At least that's my best guess at why some people think coaching is a scam. What do you think, Elena?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are coaches out there who are amazing marketing machines, to be honest. And I think part of that has been exposed in, media, like random stories about, coaches making tons of money based off of their amazing marketing skills. And if you have amazing marketing skills, you can basically sell anything. And you can let people, you can take pictures of yourself in a private jet. You can take pictures of yourself beside a Lamborghini that you don't even own. And put that all over like Instagram and create Google ads with it and be like, yes, I'm going to, create this amazing life for you, help you create this amazing life. And the sad part is oftentimes those ads are preying on people who are very vulnerable, right? People who want so desperately to make a change and they take the bait. And so can we really say coaching is a scam from that perspective? I mean, not really. They're just really great at marketing and they're really great at hooking into the clients that they know they can get. But like I was saying before, it's not a scam because, well, not because, but it's really on the person who's paying for this coach to take the responsibility and recognize, like, I think a lot of people don't realize that they have to put the work in, that they just can't miraculously have a coach who's going to like wave his magic wand and all of a sudden you're making, all kinds of money and have like the hottest women or men are flocking around you and, you have this amazing life. Like you have to put the work in. So yeah, like, I mean, it makes me sad because there's a lot of coaches out there who are amazing marketing machines and who are preying on a specific archetype or client or whatever you want to call it, avatar.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and that's what I think gives this negative spin on the coaching industry.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to a question of value. Are people getting the value that they're paying for? If you're purchasing any service, right? Are you getting what you pay for, right? If you pay a coach, hundreds or thousands of dollars, and good coaches cost thousands of dollars to work with. I mean, do you then get a result that is worth that much, right? And I can say, up until a few years ago, I don't think I ever would have considered investing in coaching. And then I started, going down the route of learning about psychology and things like NLP and hypnosis, and I came to recognize the value of mentors, right? And the value of having somebody who's a little bit ahead of you in a certain context or potentially in life, metaphorically hold you by the hand and guide you a little bit and hold you accountable. And now, looking back on the last few years since I had that realization, and a coach in many ways is just a mentor, right? Having had that realization and looking at my life now, I can say not only have I got like my value's worth for every dollar that I've invested in different coaches, different mentors, different trainings, and training often is very much, just a different model of coaching. Not only has it been well worth it in terms of the value, but like knowing what I know now, I would have regretted not going down the path that I've gone down. I would have, my life would not be what it is. My level of happiness and enjoyment and freedom in life would not be remotely where it is right now if I hadn't invested in coaches and mentors and mentoring and coaching relationships for myself, right? And it's not even just like in terms of financial return on investment, which I've seen, yes, but like emotional freedom, return on investment, and satisfaction, and just being able to live a life that is totally extraordinary comes down. And when I say extraordinary, I don't mean unattainable. I just mean different than the ordinary, right? In a great way. And really it comes down to, investing in myself. Was it worth it for me? Yeah. Did I ever invest in a coach where I didn't immediately see a direct like financial return on investment? Of course. But they were all stepping stones. I have a friend who says you always, always, always get what you need, but it's not necessarily what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's
You
good.
always
Yeah.
get, and I think that applies in working with coaches. So like, I could understand how somebody would drop, a few grand on working with a coach, expecting a hyper specific result. And then if that hyper specific result doesn't occur, they say, well, this must have been a scam. But I think those people are, in the most loving and compassionate way I can say this, they're missing the bigger picture. They're missing the bigger picture,
Yeah.
right? Because even if you didn't get the result, you must have learned something, even if you learned it from the experience, right? That
Yeah.
might be that's a salty pill for some people to follow to swallow. By the way, sorry, go ahead, Elena.
Yeah, I was just also going to say too, I think that there's definitely in the last, I would say 5 years or so, coaching has really exploded. It seems like I don't remember hearing about coaching as much as I hear about it now, 5 or 7 years ago. And I think that has a lot to do with just sort of like the world that we're in right now. Like we've become a society where we're all kind of like doing our own thing, living very independently, and we don't have those mentors like you were saying that we used to have, right? Like within our family, within like sort of like the friends of family unit and stuff like that. And so we've almost manifested as a collective the requirement for coaching because people need that mentorship, right? They need that help, or I don't know, to get to that next level. And anyway, I that's what made me think of that. But I was just like, we need it, and so
Yeah.
it's kind of exploded this whole industry of coaching, and some are really good and some aren't that great. And I think what's happening is that there's going to become like a leveling out almost, where people are going to really start to understand the value of coaching, because I think a lot of the quote unquote bad coaches are going to get weeded out, and we're going to get to a point where coaching is going to be valued and respected just like other professions. And you're going to know when you're being scammed and when you're going to something good. Just like if you're going to, get plastic surgery or something like that, or that comes to mind when it comes to scams. Like, yeah, you can go get a botched job, or you can go to someone who is, professional and has the accreditation and references and all that stuff. So I think we're just in this sort of like, I mean, obviously coaching isn't new. It's been around for a long time, but it's sort of like been this explosion. And I think we're going to see this leveling out, and it's going to become a lot more respected as a profession. And you're going to really be able to tell who's good and who's not so good. I mean, how can you say it's a scam when we have people out there like Tony Robbins and John Assaraf and Bob Proctor and, all of these super successful guys who they've gotten to where they are and to the success they have because they had amazing mentorship, right? And they're just passing on the mentorship that they had. So, I mean, it does work. We know it works. It's just,
what's funny is some people would hear this and say Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, and all those gurus are the biggest scammers of them all.
yeah.
I know people will hear that and say that because they make a killing. They made it, rest in peace. Bob Proctor now has passed away, but when he was alive, he did very well. And, people will look at them and say that because are there people who pay them money who then go on to live quite mediocre or miserable lives? The answer is yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I can see why, from a certain perspective, it would seem like a scam. But are there people who have paid Bob and Tony and all these, gurus, whatever, money and had their life dramatically transformed for the better? Yes, I know many of them personally, right? So, I mean, I don't think we can gauge by necessarily the results, the average results of clients per se to say whether somebody's a scam or whether somebody's scamming or not, because one man's scammer is another man's savior,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about the responsibility of the person who's paying for the coaching. So, I mean,
Mm,
you could go in and do the bare minimum with the coach and expect to get the results because you're just in this relationship. Or you can go into that coaching container and do absolutely everything, model everything, do exactly what your coach is telling you, and have amazing results. I think, to be honest, it really lies in the person who is getting it. However, like on the flip side of that, I'm thinking like there are definitely coaches out there who, you may pay them big bucks and they're like nothing really happens and it just like the relationship falls flat. But if you're working with someone who is ethical, then they should really give you your money back. If you're not seeing progress, the relationship isn't going anywhere. By a few sessions in,
yeah.
I think it's not uncommon for like, good professional coaches to be like, you know what, if this isn't working out, like, here's your money back. Let's just terminate the contract.
Yeah. And I think I would go one step further and say it shouldn't even get to that point because there's an onus, there's a responsibility on a coaching professional to really qualify clients and to really, assess the people that you're accepting and taking on as a client, or in my case, as a student, because you want to cultivate good relationships that are going to yield good results. And when it comes to like coaching is an intimate thing, that it must be rapport between a coach and client. And, I would say if anything is a scam in the coaching industry, it's the coach who indiscriminately takes on anybody who's willing to give them money. I think that now we're in murky waters, if that's
Yeah.
what we're talking about, because as a coach, you must recognize that you can't build great rapport with every single personality out there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't get great results for every single person and every single unique, human being out there. There's going to be clients that are suited to your style and methods, and those are the clients that you want to direct your attention to. And so I'll put one point to the whatever scam defenders or whatever you call it, that if a coach is doing that and they're aware of it, and especially if it's accompanied by a strict no refund policy, well, I mean, I think that points to the character or the insecurities. And I agree with you, but I don't like to ever let it, like, have I ever issued a refund for different reasons? Yeah. I don't think I recall ever issuing a refund because we were incompatible. I was incompatible with the student or client, but life circumstances, somebody's whatever. I'm not going to go into specifics, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
a reasonable person is willing to do reasonable things and make reasonable accommodations.
for sure.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good point to talk about some red flags.
Cool. People will like that. That's a
Yeah.
buzzword, red flags. People's ears will perk up. I know.
So what are your coaching red flags?
I don't really have a lot of red flags because I just kind of automatically filter for people who that I want to work with or not want to work with. But there are some things that I see some coaches do that indicate to me that they're not yet where I would like them to be if I'm going to work with them. So and I would label these more as lack of elegance might be a nicer way to say it. If a coach is unreachable, I mean, unless they're Tony Robbins is difficult to reach, right?
Yeah.
Because he has millions of clients technically, right? If you consider all the attendees at his seminars to be clients. But if a coach is unreachable, they don't answer messages, they don't answer emails, they don't answer calls prior to even, signing on with them, that's a problem. If a coach hides, like I have a lot of coaches that follow me on Instagram who, amongst 1,000 posts, one of them includes a picture of themselves, right? Or coaches who, in their whole profile, there's no surname, there's no family name, there's may or may not be a first name. Some people use fake last names, and it's very obvious when they do. all of these things to me, as a former, and this is me putting on my private investigator hat, all of these things that I've just mentioned, and not, this is not a universal truth, but this is what could be alluded to, is just a person who's not yet stepped into the identity of a fully professional and congruent coach.
Yeah.
Right. They're putting up barriers. That's not somebody, again, I wouldn't necessarily call these red flags, because they're not necessarily done as a means of intentional deception or a way to scam people. But these are indicators of people that I probably don't want to work with. In terms of red flags for a scam, I think failing to qualify potential clients probably is the biggest one.
Yeah.
Anybody
Like
who's
just
willing,
working with whoever kind of.
yeah, anybody who's willing to just work with whoever, anybody who's willing to pay me, that without qualifying, like, that tells me that you're not concerned as much as you could be with whether or not the people are going to get results, which a coach should be primarily concerned with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you know, one thing that I look for is, I want to see someone who has like a bit of a structure in place, like not like super structured, but like an onboarding process of some sort, where I feel like, they've done this before. um, I definitely look out for that. And I also, I spend a lot of time on Instagram, obviously watching coaches, but, I like to see that they're also doing the work.
Yeah.
Um, that's also really important, because if they're selling me coaching and they're selling me on, having a more joyful, fulfilled life or whatever it might be, or like a better business or something, then I want to see that they're in like congruent with that, right? I want to see that, they have a nice life or they're doing well in their business as well. So I think like a red flag for me would be if, they're maybe complaining or they're, not really being the leader that I would expect them to be,
Yeah.
then that's a bit of a turn off.
I'll take that. I like it. I agree.
Yeah. So maybe before we wrap up, what are some, we can let the listeners know, like, what are some green lights, green flags
Yeah.
for working with a coach? Like, how do you know when you're getting into a good relationship with a coach? How do you know when, okay, I'm not being scammed here? I think for me, it would be, being able to hop on a call with them right away to discuss the parameters of the program or whatever it is. Having some access to testimonials and
Yeah.
references. Like, I really like it when a coach says to me, and I do this with my clients too, like, I'm happy to give you contact info from former clients. And I've done this before where people have actually called former clients to be like, what was it like working with Alana? I think just being open and showing that, you're not an open book, but like you're open to discussion, you're open to collaborating, you're not hiding anything, like you were saying before. I think those for me are things that I really look out for.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
listeners, I think it would be wise for you to look out for those things too.
Yeah. Testimonials are good. References are good. Congruency between the social media persona and the actual person who gets on a consultation with you is huge. That's a big green flag. Meaning,
Yeah.
is it like, does the person portray a character in social media, and then when you get on a call with them, they're a totally different human being, right? That would be a red flag. A green flag would be is like, and I hear this a lot as feedback for me. The dude you see on the interviews on YouTube or on my social media, or the dude you hear in the podcast, is the same dude that shows up on a consult or on a sales call or on a whatever call, right? It's all across the board, because I'm just being myself all the time. And I'm okay with some people don't like me. That's cool, because a lot of people still will. Yeah. So that's another big one. And a green flag, I mean, somebody you can build rapport with, right? Somebody who kind of, not necessarily totally, but kind of sees the world the way you do,
Mm-hmm.
Now, probably if it's a coaching relationship, they're going to have a different perspective, and you're going to want to move toward your coach's perspective a little bit, depending on the type of coaching it is. But like, you don't want somebody who's like diametrically opposed about all of your most fundamental views on life and values or something like that. Again, that's not a red or green flag about specific coaches. It's just like a tip for who to
Yeah.
work with, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, like are you able to laugh together? Are you able to have fun? Because you, as you said, it is an intimate relationship. You're going to be spending a lot of time together on Zoom, most likely. But you want to also be able to have fun, right? Like you don't want it to be this like really strict kind of like I'm the coach, you're the client relationship. At least I don't. I don't want that for me, and it might be very personal. Maybe some people do need that. But the other thing I wanted to say too is what are your thoughts on like accreditation? You know, when you're looking for a coach and listen when the listeners are looking for a coach, is it important to see some sort of a certification or accreditation on their website? Is that
Yeah.
required?
It's
I feel
certainly
like
not
this is a
required.
topic.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but I feel like it's like a topic that comes up a lot. Like, oh, you don't need to be certified to become a coach. Yes, you do need to be certified to become a coach. Like, where are we
Yeah.
on that?
I mean, I enjoy technicalities personally. And in most places in the world, coaching in general is an unregulated industry. So you're not required to be accredited. It's not like being a doctor where you have to, be licensed by the government in the country that you live in to be a doctor. That's not a thing for coaches. When I personally am looking for mentorship or coaching or training, I don't care about certificates or accreditations. I care about results,
Yeah.
period. And if somebody has a proven track record of getting great results or the result that I want, that's the person I want to work with. And I don't care if 10 years ago they took some life coach course and got a certificate. Now, that being said, there are certain accreditations in coaching that are highly valuable and tell you that that person invested time, money, and energy in honing their skills. And they have access to a toolbox that other people likely don't have, like an NLP, like a good NLP training course and certification tells me that about a person. But is that going to be the deciding factor? Or is that even going to be like kind of high on my list of criteria? Honestly, for me, no, it's not. And for most of the students that come and work with me, or the clients that come and work with me, I can say that most of them didn't ask either any or very few questions about certification or accreditation, unless it was about what certification they were going to get from working with me. But that's because I have a proven track record of exceptional results and hundreds of testimonials on video that people can see. When you have that, people care less about the
Yeah.
certificate. So I mean, I guess the answer is it depends.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it depends. I definitely, whenever I've worked with coaches, I haven't asked, but I'm going to say, like, I think it is a little bit important. I think you want to work with somebody who at least has some type of training. I think in something, like maybe it's not like a life coaching certificate, but I don't know, maybe it's NLP, maybe it's hypnosis, maybe it's
Yeah.
something. I mean, I'm biased towards subconscious coaches or, coaches who work with your subconscious because I know that that delivers great results and I'm a
Yeah.
product of that. So for me, I would look for that now if I was going into my coaching journey.
Grain of salt.
Not required, but I think, yeah, dependent. But I think it's just sort of something to be aware of.
Yeah. It's something to be aware of. And, this also coming like from, I granted certifications in coaching for a number of years. And like technically I still do, although right now I'm running a program, which is a little different. But yeah, so I mean, there's points on both sides. But like for me personally, I'm always going to take the proven track record of results over certifications. Now, and then, however, I mean, let's say, you out there, listener, you recently discovered hypnotherapy and you've been learning all about it and watching videos on YouTube and you're really excited about that specific modality, right? And you're like, there's the American Board of Hypnotherapy that certifies people, and there's the National Guild of Hypnotherapy or the National Guild of Hypnosis, that certifies people. And I really want to work with one of their practitioners, right? Okay. And in that case, that's one of your, sure, That's a good criteria, right? Look up all the registered, certified people in those boards or whatever. So again, the answer is it depends.
Depends.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I
Cool.
think out of this podcast episode, have we established, is coaching a scam?
I think it's not. I think there are people who call themselves coaches who aim to scam people, and they're not coaches. So that's a caveat. I'm going to tell you, the proof is in the pudding. Like, if we look just at the money I've spent on coaching has come back to me tenfold. Period. I can remember specific coaches where it cost me like a low ticket, $1,000 to work with one guy who I'm thinking of in my mind. And I saw so far 100K plus in profit just from what I learned from that one guy over a 8-week period or whatever it was. So in my experience, in my opinion, is it a scam? No, absolutely not. Are there people out there who, under the guise of being coaches are deceptive in their practices? Sure. Just like in any other industry. Is good coaching, reputable coaching a scam? No. If you're coachable, it's a great investment, period.
Yeah. And I'm with you on that. Okay.
Verified. Agreement.
We're done.
Okay. Cool. Time. Excellent.
Okay. So that does it for this week's episode of the No Excuses podcast with Alana Banks and Ryan Montes. Ryan, where can we find you?
Let's see. That reminds me of a song. How'd it go? You can find me in the club. Anyway, you can't find me in the club, I promise. You can find me at ryanmontes.com, and it's at Ryan Montes NLP on Instagram. Where can we find you, Alana?
You can find me on Instagram at Alana Banks Coaching.
Cool.
All right. So that's it. Thank you very much. And we'll see everyone next time.